In this session we are going to discuss about another set of UI elements: link to action, link to URL, checkbox, and image. Let me go into the SAP screen. Okay, SC80 is the transaction code where we develop the Web Dynpro components. Okay, I have the Web Dynpro component which is already created. So here I'll create another view. Okay, v underscore link. Okay, or I can just do the I can place the same UI elements in existing view as well. Okay, here what I'm going to do is, okay, here I'm going to place another set of UI elements. So here I'll create, go to change mode. Here I'll create another group. Okay, group. Okay, I'll set it as a matrix layout. Link to action and link to URL. Okay, right now if you see here, they are displayed here. So now link to URL and link to actions will enable the user to click on something so that it can navigate to the next application or next action which needs to be performed. So link to action is something like a button action only, but link to URL, you cannot have any action associated with it, but you can link a particular URL to link to URL UI element. Okay, so it only associated with URLs, but link to action, you can use this link to action as a link to URL, and at the same time you can, if you want to perform any action based on the some link performing, then you can just use the link to action. Okay, so now let me just place the required UI elements. Insert element. Okay, link to action. I'm placing link to action. Link to action. Okay, from drop down you can choose the required UI elements. Link to action. Click OK. See, it has come. Okay, here you will see the text. Okay, this text can be displayed dynamically, can be displayed statically also, but if you just to display the text dynamically, you will have to create a context node and context attribute, because data can only be stored in the context level, so that the data which is there in the context attribute, if that context attribute is binded to this text property, then that data will be displayed as a text for link to action UI element. Okay, here I am giving the static text link to action. Okay, so now this should have action associated with it. So until unless you create an action for it, it will be in disabled mode only. Okay, you'll see just text only. Okay, let me launch the application and show you how it will be displayed if there is no text associated with it. See here, this is linked to action, but you just, I mean, if you just keep your cursor here, it is just appearing normal, I mean, and it appears in ash color. Okay, the reason is like there is no action associated, so it will be just appeared as text only. So now we create an action for this link to action. Okay, just check this checkbox, transfer your event parameters. Now see, it appears in blue color. Now let me just execute this up, activate it, and then execute the application. Just refresh this. Now you see it appears in, see, now when you place your cursor, you'll get a hand icon. Okay, it means now it is allowed to click on it. It is allowed to click on it. Since you have not written any code in the on action of this link to action UI element, so there is no code executed, so there is no action performed. So now here, I mean, customer is expecting to happen something when user clicks on this link to action UI element. Okay, for an end user, this is a link only. Okay, he doesn't know whether I'm just using the link to URL or link to action. For him, it doesn't matter. But depending on your requirement, depending on your need, um, okay, you have either you will go for link to action or link to URL. If it is linked to URL, you don't have any action associated, so you just have to directly specify the URL and then it gets opened. But if it is linked to action, you can use this link to action UI element as similar to link to URL, and at the same time, if any specific actions to be associated, if any specific validations to be done before you open a URL, then you can write any validations in that action. Okay, now here I'll just display some message upon clicking that. Okay, so here I'll go to on action, double click on it. Here I can write the required code. Okay, so here I'll just write some raise some message. Go to general, select generate message. Okay, report success. Okay, we have a separate unit for discussing about the message handling. Okay, here I'll specify the message text. You have selected link to action. Okay, this is not required. Okay, done. Now, so since you have action associated, you can write whatever you want it here between method on action LTA and end method. Whatever the code you need, you can write it here, and then whenever you click on that link to action, the code written in this action will be executed. Okay, now let me just refresh this. Press F5 keyboard, F5 shortcut. Okay, now click on link to action. Now you see you have selected link to action, so message has been appeared here. So this is how, if you want any action to be executed, if you want any code, any validation or any message to be appeared based depending on your selection, then you can write your required code in the on action of link to action UI element. So this is what link to action. Okay, okay, how to use this link to action as a link to URL UI element, then that I will that I will explain you when we discuss about the working with pop-ups. Okay, so it is because this is related to pop-up related execution, so that time when we discuss about pop-up related unit, then I will explain you link to action also. Okay, so now we will go with the link to URL UI element. Go to v underscore main again, go to layout, right click on group, click on insert element. If you want to place single UI element in screen layout, view layout, you will have to right click on root UI element container or any transparent container or any group and click on insert element. Okay, when you have a big screen to be designed, then it is not advisable to just click on insert element every time for every UI element. Okay, instead, as I already told you, right click on root UI element container and click on create container form, or just select this root UI element container and click on Web Dynpro code wizard and select the form. Okay, and select the context. So here you can select the required cell editor or how it should be displayed. So that way it is advisable to go ahead, so that the design of a very big screen can be achieved in a fraction of minutes. Okay, within 1 minute, 2 minutes, sometimes depending on your design. Okay, now here I'll place the link to URL, link to URL. Now you see link to URL. Here you will see drop down. Now here I can assign the reference, and I can specify the text also. Okay, link to URL. Now if you set it as layout data as matrix head data, that will be displayed in the new line. Okay, now here I can specify the reference. So reference in the sense like the URL you will have to specify here. Either you can pass the reference dynamically or pass the reference statically. So if it is statical, then how it should be displayed, that I'll explain you. Let's say for example I'm taking this URL. Okay, I'm taking this URL only. Now go to v underscore main. Now go to LTU, change mode. Now in place of reference, here I'll specify the URL. Now done. Okay, now I'll execute it, activate it, go to the Web Dynpro application. See, now when I click on link to URL, it will open another application. See, the reference that I've specified, I'm clicking on link to URL. Now you see, I click it from here, it has opened in another tab. Okay, now see, I have two tabs. Once again I'm clicking on link to URL from the second tab. Now see, it has opened third tab. So this is depending on your Internet Explorer settings options. If you set to it to display as a new window, then it will be displayed as new window. If it is set to display it as new tab, then it will be displayed as new tab. Okay, but if you keep clicking on it, so see, fourth tab. Now if I keep clicking on it, fifth tab. So like this. Okay, so the the main advantage or the main purpose of this link to action and link to URL are extensively used when you want to navigate from one application to another application. Navigating from one application to another application in the sense like there are two different type of navigations. One is in place navigation, the another one is external navigation. External navigation in the sense like you are in application 1, and without disturbing the application 1 you want to open application 2 in a separate window. Okay, that is external navigation. If it is in place navigation, you are in application 1 and you want to navigate to application 2. So application, when you are navigating from application 1 to application 2, application 1 will be vanished and it will be overwritten with application 2. Okay, those that can be achieved in enterprise portal. You have OBN, object based navigation. So there you can achieve the external and internal navigations, in place navigations. But here this supports, I mean, always link to URL supports to open it in separate window only. Okay, separate tab or separate window depending on your Internet Explorer settings. Okay, but if you have embedded these Web Dynpro applications in enterprise portal, and there you can have two options: external window, or you want to be in place window. Okay, so that is what. So this is what link to URL. Okay, so like this, if even if you click on here, again it will open another tab. Okay, now you can close all the tabs. So this is link to action and link to URL. Okay, now let us go to the, let us see how to populate the, how to pass this reference dynamically. Okay, delete it. Okay, now, so whenever I want to pass the data dynamically, I should have the context created. Okay, click on create context. Context, node, link to URL, dictionary structure nothing, cardinality 1 to 1, click OK. Attribute LTU string. Okay, here you can use the single attribute also. Okay, now go to layout. Here for this reference parameter, reference property of this link to URL UI element, I will do the context binding. Do the context binding. How to do the context binding? Just click on this brick. Click on this brick. Okay, for every parameter, against every parameter there is a brick displayed. If there is no brick, then at least there should be some drop down. Okay, drop down or checkbox. For checkbox also you can have brick. Okay, so if you want to shuffle between ABAP true and ABAP false, X or space, so then you have context binding can be done to this particular parameter. Okay, for wherever you see drop down, only one value is possible. Okay, so here for reference property I am doing the context binding, link to URL. Okay, now save it and activate it. Now see, I'll show you. I'll open the application. Now since there is no data to link to URL, see, it is in ash color, it is disabled. Okay, so it will be in blue color, it will be something like this. You will get hand icon only when you have data available in the link to URL UI element. So until then it will be in ash color only. Okay, so I mean there would be couple of requirements wherein uh, depending on authorization or depending on depending on authorization only, there will be 10 users who are accessing application 1. So within application 1 you have link to URL by clicking on which it will take you to the application 2, but out of those 10 users only 5 users are allowed to launch the application 2 from application 1. So in such cases you can have authorization concept wherein you can wherein you can check the authorization when application is launched depending on user. Then if the authorizations are there, then it will be allowed to click on link to URL UI element. So this is one kind of requirement wherein you can achieve this. Okay, so now let me show you how to dynamically pass the data to link to URL UI element. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, whenever user select this link to action UI element, then I will pass the required data to link to URL. Okay, so what I have to do, I have to write the logic in on action of link to action UI element. Okay, until unless user doesn't click on link to action UI element, this action will not be executed. So if this action is not executed, data will not be passed to link to URL UI element. So I'll show you that. So here I'm going to pass the data. Whenever user clicks on link to action UI element, see here I should set the data to context attribute. So Web Dynpro code wizard, context, set context, select the context attribute. Okay, I am going to place the data into context attribute. Click OK. Right, set attribute lv underscore ltu. So to lv underscore ltu I will pass the data to, see here, like this, copy and paste. Right, so lv underscore ltu, control S, activate it. I'm passing the URL to lv underscore ltu variable. Okay, so lv underscore ltu has been passed to set underscore attribute method. So now I'm going to activate this. Now I'll keep a breakpoint here. Now let me execute the Web Dynpro application. Now see, it is in disabled only. So now I am going to click on link to action. So it will go to debugging. Here lv underscore ltu has this URL. Now press F6. Now press F8. Now you see link to URL has hand icon. Okay, this is appearing in ash color because you already clicked it, so that is why once it is already clicked, then it will be displayed in this color only. Okay, so like this, link to action. Okay, so link to URL, but however you are getting the hand icon. If there is no data, you will not get the hand icon. So now I click on link to URL. See, I have only one tab here. Now if I click on link to URL, you see second tab with same application, because I have passed the URL of the same application. So ZBK underscore FSN recordings, this URL I have passed. So from same application, I am calling the same application to be opened as another application. Okay, so this is what I am doing it. If I refresh now, since I have not clicked on it, until unless I click on it, it will be in disabled mode only, like this only. You will not get the hand icon if you keep your cursor on the link to URL UI element, whatever the navigation you do it. Okay, so you navigate back to main view, but still you see whatever you do, until unless the action, the code written in this action associated with link to action UI element will not be executed, there will be no data passed to link to URL UI element. So now I'm clicking on here, see, it will go to debugging. Yes, now set attribute, data will be there in context, so data will be displayed in UI element also. Now you see it has got hand icon. Okay, now just click once again. Now you see this is what. Okay, now if you now here in this application, see, now it is in disabled mode because this application is opened just now, and here also I have to click on link to action to enable this link to URL. Okay, so they are, the instance of this application is different. Okay, this application instance is different, this application instance is different, this application instance is different. Okay, so for every instance you have to pass the data. Okay, so this is what. Now we will see checkbox. Go to v underscore main. See, what is the purpose of checkbox? Okay, so the difference between checkbox and radio button is more important. I mean, in most of the interviews, interviewer might ask what is the difference between checkbox and radio button, and in which scenario you go for checkbox and in which scenario you go for radio button. Simple answer is very simple. If to allow the user not to select more than one option, you will go for radio button. To allow user to select more than one option, you will go for checkbox. To not to allow user to go for more than one option, you will select radio button. To allow user to go for more than one option, you will select checkbox. Okay, if you use the checkboxes, multiple selection is possible. If you select radio button, multiple selections are not possible. Okay, that too radio button group by key or radio button group by index. If it is radio button, independent radio button, multiple selections are possible, but which is not recommended for the against the radio button behavior. Okay, so we have three, although we have three different UI elements, but radio button group by key or radio button group by index are used mostly, but radio button UI element is used only in place of table UI elements. Okay, now this is what the difference between radio button and checkbox. Okay, now we will see how to place the checkbox in view layout. Okay, here I am going to place the checkbox UI element in the same group. Right click on it and click on insert element, checkbox. See, okay, now again I will select it as matrix head data. You can have label also, but anyway I'll show you that. See, here for checked you should have obligatory binding, means obligatory binding. So for this I should have context node created. Okay, context node checkbox. No dictionary structure, cardinality should be 1 to 1, and click OK. Okay, now we have to create a context attribute. Check. Okay, now the type is important here. Okay, type is important here. Checkbox is always should have one character length only. Okay, now since it should have one character length, either you can go for checkbox will always possible either checked or unchecked. Okay, if it is checked in the sense like it is X, if it is unchecked in the sense like it is space. Okay, so we have a predefined data element called boolean, okay, which has only two options possible. Okay, data type boolean. If you just go to here, boolean has char 1 and it has fixed values defined, x true or false or unknown. Okay, if it is space, unknown. If it is this, false. Okay, so this one either you can use boolean or for Web Dynpro wdy underscore boolean predefined data elements. Okay, wdy underscore boolean. Okay, it has same true or false. Okay, true or false. So this one. Okay, so I am going to use this data element. So here I am going to use this data element. Check type wdy boolean, click OK. Now I can bind this context attribute to checkbox UI element. Okay, see here obligatory binding is missing. If I don't bind it and I am just trying to, if I syntax check, it will give a error message. Property checked of element, check must be bound. So it means this check UI element must have binding. Okay, so mistakenly if you forgot to do the context binding for few UI elements for which mandatory binding is required, application will Web Dynpro ABAP framework will throw a error message for you. So here I am doing the context binding. Select this, context binding is done, binding exists. You can see here binding exists. Okay, so here this is toggling between checked and unchecked. Okay, checked and unchecked. For this also you can have action associated. Okay, here you can create on action. Check, select transfer event parameters, click OK. Now activate it. Okay, open the application. Now you see checkbox. Now you can check or uncheck, checked or unchecked. Okay, now whenever you click on check or uncheck, if you would like to throw in some message, how to do that? Okay, since we have action associated with checkbox UI element on toggle, we can write the required code in this on toggle and achieve the expected behavior. Here method on action check and end method, I can write my own code. Okay, so maybe something like let's say for example, if within one Web Dynpro application, this should be always checked. Okay, and without checking this checkbox, if you are trying to click on save, then you can do validate, or maybe if there is any checkbox dependent validations you can do on this checkbox. Okay, so here I'm going to write the required code. So now I should know whether it is checked or unchecked. So here Web Dynpro code wizard, read, I'll read it from the context attribute. Okay, here I'm reading this check, click OK. Get attribute, as we already discussed, set attribute is to set the attribute value, get attribute method is to get the attribute value. So here I'm going to place the breakpoint. Now I will show you. Let me execute the Web Dynpro application. Okay, just remove this breakpoint and execute it. Now let's see. I'm checking this. It will go to debugging. Okay, yes. Whenever there is an action. Okay, LV underscore check is space. See, it has X because I have checked it. I have selected it. So that is why LV underscore check is X. Okay, now execute. Now if I uncheck it, now see again it will go to debugging because I have placed a breakpoint in on action check. See, this is the component name, this is the view, and this is the method. On action check. Here you'll see method. Now LV underscore check. See this? It has okay. Now you see it has been executed and LV underscore check has space because we have unchecked it. Because we have unchecked it. Now press F8. Now I am going to display a message depending on the selected or unselected. LV underscore check when X when space end case. Now if it is selected, I'll display a success message. General generate message report success. Here I'll display a message. Okay, raw night right when space I would like to display a warning message when space. So here I have another method called report warning. So here see the data declaration is already there, so I don't have to do the data declaration again. So what I will do, I'll use the same data declaration. We will detail discuss about this when we talk about the message handling. Okay, so here message text, please make sure checkbox is selected. You have unchecked the checkbox. Now okay, just comment this and save it, activate it. Now let me execute the Web Dynpro application. Now see, I will select it. It will go to debugging. I'll remove the debugging. Execute it. Now you see, you have selected the checkbox. I have selected the checkbox. Now if I unselect it, this is success message. You see, this is success message. See, this is warning message. You have unchecked the checkbox. Please make sure checkbox is selected. Okay, so likewise you can display a error message, or you can display a warning message, you can display a success message. Okay, depending on your need. Okay, so like this you can write the required code in Web Dynpro ABAP. Okay, now we will see the image UI element. Go to v underscore main. So this is more important, image UI element. Okay, image UI element is used to display a image. For example, when you are displaying a employee profile in HR module, so you should have you should be able to work with image UI element to display employee photo or to display company logo. You will have to work with image UI element. Okay, so let's say for example download the SAP logo. Okay, our FSN solutions logo. Okay, let me download this. Now I would like to display this company logo in the Web Dynpro application. So how to do that? Now the prerequisite for displaying an image in Web Dynpro ABAP application is to create a MIME object. Okay, create a MIME object first. Go to MIME repository. Go to MIME repository. Go to repository browser. Otherwise, create MIME object. Create or import. If you click on create, there will be a separate tool where you can design your image and then directly import it, or if you have already image in place, you can just import it from desktop wherever it is stored. Okay, now right click on it, cancel. Let me show you once again. Right click on the Web Dynpro component, create MIME object, import. Okay, now it is there in desktop. Okay, so I'll take it from desktop. FSN logo. Click open. Okay, now you see pop-up has come. Just click, keep saving it. Remember my decision. Hello. Now you will get a tree here. Tree element. MIME objects. Till now we have views, windows, Web Dynpro applications. Now you see MIME tree element. If you click on this, you'll get to see image. Okay, this is FSN logo. Okay, close it. Okay, so like this. Now I'm going to display this FSN logo in Web Dynpro ABAP application. How to do that? Okay, again click on group, click on insert element, image UI element, select it from drop down, image. Okay, this is image UI element. Okay, image UI element, click OK. Now you see source. Okay, source. Now click on this source, click F4 here. See here you can display whatever the image you want it. Okay, these icon large, pictogram, SAP GUI, these are preloaded, which are delivered along with SAP. Okay, but component images which you have uploaded into Web Dynpro ABAP component, you see FSN logo. See, this is the component name. Okay, now you can select the required image, right? Okay, now you see image has been displayed. Now this is also selected as matrix head data. Okay, now click on save, activate it. That's all. Open the Web Dynpro application and refresh it. Okay, 1 second, let me just check. I think the format of image is not supported. Okay, now let me just delete it, just to make sure that this is the reason that application is dumping. Remove it and save it. and activate it. Now refresh the Web Dynpro application. If it is not dumping, then that is the reason. Okay, so I assume because of reason we have added, it is application was dumping. So now let me do one thing. Now remove this MIME object, delete it. Yes. Now okay, here what I am going to do is I am going to place okay, now save it. Save as JPEG picture, desktop, save. Now close this. Now once again import this image, right click on Web Dynpro component, create MIME object, import FSN solutions. Now save it, local object, hello. Okay, now save it. Now you will see this, you'll get the image. Okay, now create image UI element. Now click F4 on source property of image UI element, select component images, click on FSN solutions, click OK, click on save, click on activate. Now refresh the Web Dynpro application. Okay, I think there is a problem with image UI element. It is not displayed. Okay, once again let us try. Just adjust the width. Okay, let me just do 20 pics, then 100 pics. Okay, now let me just try. Let's see what is the problem. Okay, I think it seems to be the problem with image UI element. Okay, if we remove the image UI element, remove element and save it and activate it, now we should be able to see the application. I will check what is the problem to work with image UI element, and we'll see in the next session. Okay, right. Okay, that's all. Thanks.